All right, there viewer, thanks for joining us yet again on another interesting edition of the program, The Arena, which is where we meet to take on burning topical issues and matters facing us in the society as a people. Here, through the analysis of our resource persons, we seek to profile solutions on the way forward so that we could engender better society for every one of us. So you're welcome on board. My name is Chris Aniborgo, thanking you for being our wonderful companion. Yes, today on The Arena, we want to take a look at the proposal for the creation of additional states in Nigeria. And to help us do justice to this matter is a regular on this platform, a former member, Enugu State House of Assembly, and he is also a constitutional lawyer based here in Enugu from the Okpukpu Okwu chambers. We are talking about Honorable Barrister Nwabeze Ugwu. Deba, it's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, our viewers.
You're welcome, sir. Oh, okay, the federal government and the National Assembly recently came up with talks around additional states to be created in Nigeria. We have a 36-state, system, but then they are talking about additional states. How did you receive this news? Is it a welcomed development for us as a people? What's your take on this, sir?
I'm grateful. There is no doubt that the news by the Joint Committee of the National Assembly on Constitutional Amendment, the fact that they had adopted one more state to be created out of the Southeast, and 55 more state requests also in consideration, and about 298 requests for local government. There is no doubt that that news, particularly of the Southeast, is a cheering news. It is a news that ought to be welcomed by all and sundry, by any well-meaning Nigerian, by anybody who is forward-looking, by any person that wants Nigeria to survive as a nation, by anybody who is seriously interested in the well-being of this political entity called Nigeria. Every such person should be very happy that at the end of the day, the Southeast is set to be at par with the other 5 regions of the country. Because there's no region that is 5 states, it's only the Southeast. The rest are 6 states, while 1 is 7 states. I understand that the last person that created states, Sani Abacha, when he did create these states, wanted to create 2 states for the Southeast. But because of certain things that I really do not understand, he now decided to take that 6th state for the Southeast and give it to a region in the north. So the implication now is that the Southeast, which had been a majority region in this country, has now been turned to minority. It's honestly a sad blot on the history of the Southeast in this country. It also does not mean well. It also spells doom, to put it very mildly, for the country as a nation.
Okay. So, but the move according to you, is a welcomed one.
Very, very welcome.
We'll come to the issues pertaining to the, need for the extra one state for the Southeast to make the Southeast come to par with the other four
regions,
geopolitical zones in the country, because we understand that out of the 6 of them that we have in the country, one has 7 states already, which is the Northwest. But for the Northeast, North Central, South, South, Southwest, each of them has 6 states, except the Southeast with 5 states. But then let's look at the fact that the proposal is saying 6 more states, 1 to each of the zones now. I don't know. 6 more states, 1 for each of the zones. So if we are saying 6 more states, 1 for each of the zones, will the inequality, the imbalance not still continue? If the Southeast is to be given 1 more, would that not make us now be at 6? The ones with 6 will now become 7. And the one with 7 will become 8. So has that come to solve the problem?
See, I was going to put in that proviso when I first discussed this matter, because they were talking about 55 requests for state creation. And I did say in one other forum that if you now say, if you have 55 requests, and you are saying you have concluded to give the Southeast 1 state, if you were to give, because there was one other time this issue was broached, and a case was seriously made for the Southeast. The other regions were insisting that they should also be given 1 each. Now, if you give 1 each to every region, you have not done anything. You've merely left the equation as it was. If you want to do anything that will tip the equation, that will change the equation, all you need to do is to give the Southeast 1 additional state. So if you are giving every state, every region, 1 state each, then you give the Southeast 2. If you are giving, and even the one that has 7 currently should get only 1.
If the Northwest gets 1 more, that will be putting Northwest at 8.
If you are giving the other 4, Northeast, North Central, Southwest, and South. If you are giving each of them 1, you should give the Southeast 2, and give Northwest nothing.
Okay.
So that all the regions will now come at par. Each of them will now become 7 states. That's the proper thing. Because you appreciate the fact that whatever is good, whatever is worth doing at all,
is worth
doing well. And of course, whatever is good for the goose has no justification not being good for the gander. So honestly, it has cast a lot of slur on the sense of justice of Nigerians and the leadership Nigeria has had since 1992. It casts a serious slur. And you see, it also means that we are saying that the Civil War of 1967 to 1970 has not ended. Because if it has ended, you did say that it was no victor, no vanquished. If there was no victor, no vanquished, the implication is that all the people who populate that political entity they now become equal joiners. Each of them will have an interest that is equal and equitable to the interest of each and everybody else. But the moment you begin to reduce the interest of anyone, especially the interest of that person who is assumed to have been defeated, then it means that you have not accepted what you are preaching. No victor, no vanquished.
And then, surprisingly enough, the southeastern people, predominantly Igbos in Nigeria, you made reference to the fact that do we say once used to be among the majority ethnic nationalities in Nigeria when we talk about the Hausa, Fulani, the Yoruba, and then the Igbos? I don't know if it will still be right to still refer to the southeastern people, to the Igbos, as being part of that majority ethnic nationality.
That's the problem.
Do we still belong to that category?
Because gradually, the Igbos in the southeast are going into minority. If you were to look at the political map of this country in 1970, at that time, we had I think 12 states.
Mm.
If you come down here, we had
Imo, Anambra.
No.
Okay.
12 states. We had East Central State.
Okay.
And then we had Rivers or Cross River State. We had one in the South. That is, they now have 4 states. They now have Rivers, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa.
Mm.
Now, Edo.
Used to be Bendel.
Bendel State then now has 2.
Edo and Delta.
Now, but what is important is that it's not just you're not just looking at the geographical area, you are looking at the population as well. Because when you allocate anything in Nigeria, you allocate on the basis of population.
Mm.
The money is meant to service human beings. The money you're allocating to each state, not to service empty place, not to service land or service empty houses. They are meant to service human beings. So it is the revenue formula that ought to be adopted. Is that formula that looks at the population distribution, not land distribution.
Okay.
So that is it.
So the Igbos still belong to the category of the major tribes, right?
That's I believe we can say it's right now in our imagination, because with the facts on the ground, this statement is very, very far from the reality.
From the reality.
It is I don't know whether one should say it remains a dream, which is not close to the reality on the ground. But whatever happens, let's keep our fingers crossed.
All right, so we are proposing 2 more states if the other geopolitical zones are going to get
one each.
So the Southeast deserves 2. But the question again that will be popping up in the minds of the younger generation will be, why will the others have 6, 1, 7, and then the Southeast 5? What really could we look at with the lens and say is as a result of that this is actually the reason why the Southeast have just been left with only 5 states all the while? So for the younger generation who may be wondering what really happened, what can we point at to say this is actually the reason?
The only reason, like I did say...
Is it maybe because the land mass of the southeastern people seem to be small on the Nigerian map?
No.
What reason could we point at?
No, it couldn't have been because of the land mass. It is basically, like I did say, simply because when Sani Abacha was the president, was the head of state.
Head of state.
He was the last man that actually brought in this inequality. When he was there, I am not certain. I'm just cracking my brain to see whether there was an Igbo man in the AFRC, the Armed Forces Ruling Council, which was the legislative arm of the federal government as well as the executive arm.
Under the military?
Yes, that institution shared 2 arms of government. they were the legislature, they were also the executive.
Mm.
So I'm not sure any Igbo man was there. And if an Igbo man was there, it's only an Igbo man that could have made a case for the Igbos. You do not expect a Northerner or a Westerner to come and say making case for your people when he hasn't satisfied his own people. And of course, when there's nobody making case for you in any person's presence, you expect that the person will say, let me just go and rest and relax. Why do I bother my head with people that are not serious, people that are absent, people that do not appreciate the fact that they ought to be represented in this body. So if there was no Igbo man there, you can't blame the people. Although that does not mean that they were the people that constituted the FRC. They were the people who deliberately excluded the Igbo from the FRC, and it was also it was also binding on them to protect the interest of the Southeast, since they had refused to bring in the Southeast into the FRC.
And isn't that the continued marginalization of the Southeast in the Nigerian body politic, especially when it comes to, authoritative allocation of values? That's inequality in the number of states. Isn't that the continuation of the marginalization, especially being agitated against by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, against the federal government? What do you think, Barrister?
You see, like I did say, all these that are propping up now cannot be divorced from the fact that the Igbos lost that war. And so the people that fought on the side of Nigeria at that time are bent on taking a pound of flesh from the Southeast. They are bent on asserting the fact that they actually won this war. And they're telling us to our faces that if this war had gone the other way, that they do not know, they do not know what would have been their position. So right now that it has gone the way it went, they are prepared and ready to take everything. They now look at it as winner takes all, instead of how the leadership of the federal government at that time, despite what they said and what they claimed, the present leadership, they're not prepared to come close to the statement made at that time by the leadership of the country.
And so we continue to see the continued marginalization of the Southeast.
And it's not in a hurry to stop.
And is that not why Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is seriously agitating?
There is no doubt. There is no doubt. That, because there's a great injustice. There's a great injustice. You see, the marginalization keeps rearing up its head every single day, both in employment, both in everything, every single thing under the sun. Check them one after another. The marginalization is palpable. It is written everywhere, written even in the open, everywhere. So I believe that there's a need to do something so that the present generation, because I honestly, no, if something is not done, and done very fast,
okay,
it is difficult to predict.
So the creation of an additional state for the Southeast is going to assuage a whole lot of feelings. It's going to calm a lot of nerves. But then if we are talking about adding more states to the already existing ones that the other regions have, then it will become injustice and inequality continued. Exactly. So if we are going to settle the inequality, then let every region be on the same scale. They are power with each other. So that's the issue.
That's correct.
Some persons are of the opinion that most of the states we have are not viable enough economically. What use will a state be of if such a state cannot boast of its own resources to take care of itself? Like we see most of the states in Nigeria today, most of them are actually not economically viable. So what will it be for you, Barrister Nwabezugu? The viability of the states. Are we putting that into consideration?
Nobody puts viability of states into consideration. That's why Nigerians,
why is that?
That's why Nigerians are still requesting for, still making 298 applications for, or is it 287 for local government creation. You see, the reason why nobody considers viability is because none of the states is charged with making even a kobo for the running of the state. Every kobo they need to run the state, they get it from Abuja.
From Abuja, from the federal.
So they have no need, absolutely no need to make any, to consider anything when they're making requests. Otherwise, if you look at United States, for instance, or some other political entities in the world, what you consider to say that this is a state, this is not a state, is the viability of that political entity. Is the viability that makes it necessary for an enclave to be considered for statehood. If that enclave is not self-financing, nobody will consider to make it a state. Why would you give statehood to a group of persons who won't be able to eat in the morning, won't be able to eat in the afternoon, won't be able to eat at night? To run a government, establish the presidency, establish the governorship, you need a lot of money. Because even if it were to be just the administrative cost, that's a lot of money. Before you now even talk about the personnel cost, this one, that one, that one, all the costs. That's a lot of money. So for you to be considered to be given a state, it has to be very clearly said and acknowledged that these people that are getting the request for statehood, that they are indeed self-sufficient. So that will inform the consideration by the National Assembly and even by the presidency, by the governors, by all the people that are within that geographical entity called National Assembly. That's what they consider in order to say, give these people a state, these people deserve a state, these people don't deserve a state.
So economic viability is very important.
Very important. In fact, not just important, but indispensable.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be part of what they are putting into considerations in even considering the additional 6 states that they are, talking about. Otherwise, some persons have the opinion of what use will these states be if they cannot, operate, if they lack the ability to be self-sustaining and self-sufficient. So, but all of these and more. Well, we'll quickly go on this break. When we return, we continue the conversation with Honorable Barrister Nwabezugu on the proposal for additional state creation in Nigeria. Please don't go away. Stay with us.
Helping others is not weakness. It is humanity. A kind word, a shared meal, a listening ear can change someone's life. You don't have to be rich to help. Compassion is the greatest wealth. Lend a hand when you can.
All right, there you are. Good to return with you to the show. It's the Arena on Aneke Television. Back to you, Honorable Barrister Nwabezugu. Still on the state creation matter. Why does it look like it's a Herculean task for a civilian government to create states in Nigeria? The states we had created were all exercises done by the military. while they were in office. But for the civilian, leadership, it begins to appear like it's a very, very difficult task to have states created by civilian, government. I don't know how you see this one. Because a lot of persons are applauding this very particular administration for taking this bold step,
There is no doubt that every exercise for state creation ought to be Herculean.
It ought to be Herculean.
Ought to be Herculean.
So why is that so?
Because it cannot be made easy. If you make it easy, then there is that tendency that before the expiration of 4 years, Nigeria would have reached up to 100 states. And remember that when you have too many political entities like the states, you're also increasing the overhead expenditure. You are increasing the administrative overhead, administrative expenditure for the entire country. And so the smaller the number of states, the better for the country. The less amount of money they will spend on administrative costs, the more money they will now have for expenditure in other spheres of human endeavor. So that it's not in the interest of this country, or indeed in the interest of any other country of the world, to have too many states. Look at America, that occupies 2 continents. As big as America is, and as knowledgeable as they are, with all the things that they have, they're still operating on a 50 state structure. This is a country that is in 2 continents of the world. That country is almost as big as a continent. And yet, you see them. They have just 50 states. Nigeria, the landmass of Nigeria is probably, I think, about 12,000.
Which may be an equivalent of one state in the United States.
In fact, when I went to India, I was in the state called Maharashtra, with its capital at Pune. That capital, Pune alone, had over 20 million inhabitants. 20 million inhabitants. In Nigeria, I think it's only Lagos that has up to 20 million inhabitants.
I think Lagos and Kano, according to the last population.
I'm not sure that Kano doesn't have up to 20. Kano doesn't have up to 20. It's only Lagos that has that population. And so, but look at such a city, such a country like India. Look at the state capital. So, but in Nigeria, I don't know what the current position is, but I know that a state like Bayelsa has 11 local governments. And even the local governments are so tiny, then the number of persons in that state are also small, comparably when you compare it to the rest of the states in the country. The population of the people there is small. So if you look at it, you will not go far to take that decision within yourself that Nigeria does not need any more states.
Okay, but is that the reason why it's a huge task for a civilian government to embark on the exercise of state creation?
Yes.
How come it's so easy with the military?
We have a constitution that came into operation by dint of decree number 5, I think, of 1999, which was promulgated on the 5th of May, 1999. That
That's the Constitution now.
Yes. The Constitution promulgation decree was signed into law by Sani Abacha. Sorry, by Abubakar.
Abdulsalami Abubakar.
Abdulsalami Abubakar on the 5th of May, 1999. By the provisions of either 320 of the Constitution, the commencement date was 29th of May. Now, by that 29th of May 1999 till now, the military is no longer in charge. Mm-hmm. Before the military handed over, the way they made laws was that both the legislative as well as the executive powers were vested in one individual, the head of state.
The head of state.
In fact, it was often said that if the head of state was in his toilet and coughed, if he's coughed in his toilet, he had made a law.
Yeah.
It was a law which everybody was duty-bound to obey. And when you go to court, the court will interpret that law and tell you to obey it, because that is the law. And the job of the court is to interpret the law that the legislature has made. Now, that same man who had both the executive and judicial and legislative powers was very free to create states. All he needed, called the Attorney General, state, Okeke state, create Okeke state. He should run from pillow to bed, from bed to wall, from wall to the door. That is Okeke state. Attorney General will go and do exactly what he has done, what he has said. And now he will sign it, and the thing becomes a decree. It becomes law. Immediately, they will share the states where Okeke was carved out of, will share its assets with Okeke. So, but since the military came into power, you know that when the military was there, we had the Constitution Suspension and Modification Decree, which suspended the Constitution and modified its provisions. Mm-hmm. So that decree became superior to the Constitution. The Constitution began to play a second fiddle to the decree. But since May 29, when the Constitution came into power, now the decree began to play a second fiddle to the Constitution. The Constitution became the extant law. It became the first et origo. It became the final norm. It became the be-all and the end-all of every legal process in Nigeria. So for you now to create any state, or to adjust the boundary of any state, or to create a local government, or adjust the boundary of a local government, you will need to tinker with the provisions of the Constitution. Specifically, Section 1 of the Constitution, subsection 1, says that the Constitution is a federation made up of 36 states. Now, Section 8 tells you how you can adjust boundaries of the local governments, how you can adjust boundaries of the states. So if you are creating states, what you are seeking to do is to adjust boundaries of state boundary. Now, it also gives you the criteria for creating more states.
Okay.
It says the entire country, where you know that, okay, that's, you can, for you now even, to tinker with the provisions of the Constitution ordinarily. it is, you have to go to Section 9, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution,
Okay.
which tells you how to amend or alter any part of the Constitution from Section 1 to Section 320, with the exception of Section 8 of the Constitution, Chapter 4 of the Constitution on fundamental human rights, which runs from Sections 33 to Section 46. So for you to alter or amend any of these sections, Section 8, Chapter 4, for you to amend any of that, you do that by the provisions of Section 9, subsection 3 of the Constitution. But for you to adjust any other section from 1 to 320, outside those ones I mentioned earlier, you go by Section 9, subsection 2, not Section 9, subsection 3. The other one is Section 9, subsection 3. This one is Section 9, subsection 2.
And each of them has different provisions.
Yes, because Section 9, subsection 3 is more rigid than Section 9, subsection 2. Section 9, subsection 3 was made to be more rigid than Section 9, subsection 2 because 9, subsection 3 deals on how you can amend the section that deals on how to alter state boundaries, how to create more states, how to alter the local government boundary. You don't make it to be easy. You must make it to be rigid. So that, because if you don't do that, there'll be serious chaos. If adjusting any of these is easy, is made easy, there'll be problem.
It means if anyone who finds himself in a seat of power, he or she could just...
exactly. He can decide to balkanize his own state into 10 and create 10 more states out of his own state, when the others will remain where they were. You are calling for anarchy. So that's why the framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, felt that there is a need to make such provide for two different sections that will deal on the constitutional amendment. That's why they created Section 9, subsection 2, and then created Section 9, subsection 3, and made 9.3 more difficult to attain than 9.2, so that it is easier for you to change any provision of Chapter 3 of the Constitution on citizenship.
Okay.
It's easier for you to change it than for you to change Section 8, which deals on boundary adjustment, or to change any of the sections in Chapter 4 that deal on fundamental human rights. That also shows you, underscores the primacy in the mind of the framers of the Constitution on fundamental human rights. You remember that the first section under Chapter 4 is the right to life. So it is the first section under Chapter 4 that shows you that the Constitution itself and the framers of the Constitution consider life to be the most important right that anybody in this country has. And that, of course, you also know, is the first right that God gave to man, the right to life, before you talk of anything else. Even those rights that the Nigerian police trample upon, those rights that the peace officers in Nigeria trample upon, like the right to demonstrate, the right to free speech, the right to freedom of movement, the right to family and private life, the right to own property,
freedom of association,
the right to freedom of association, the right to all those rights, right to fair hearing, right to personal liberty, right to all such, they are all far more important than even the National Assembly itself. They are more important than any House of Assembly. They are more important than the executive powers of the president. They are more important than even the office of the president. That's the truth. Your right to life, your right to fair hearing, your right to personal liberty, your right to dignity of the human person, your right to freedom of speech, your right to freedom of movement, your right to freedom from discrimination, your right to own immovable property, your right anywhere in Nigeria, your right to anything, freedom of speech, conscience, and religion, right to freedom of speech, thought, conscience, and religion, right for you to even demonstrate. Those rights are made more important by the Constitution than the office of Mr. President, which was also created by the Constitution itself.
By the same Constitution.
So that is why, because the Constitution adjudges that those rights, those freedoms under Chapter 4 are more important than the office of the President that is contained in Section 130 of the 1999 Constitution. Because the Constitution considers those freedoms to be more important. That is why the Constitution made adjustment of any of those rights, those freedoms, more difficult, more Herculean, more rigid than making any adjustment to the office of Mr. President. Either how to become president, or how to be impeached from the office of president, or how to be recalled from any legislative house, or how to get election into the office of president, vice president, governor, deputy governor, the Senate, the House of Representatives, House of Assembly, anything, anywhere. Because the Constitution considers these rights to be more important. That's why they are more rigid to adjust than you can adjust to the office of the president. You know that the Nigerians actually has the right to wipe out the office of the president. Say they don't want it any longer.
But wouldn't that be needed to be reflected in the Constitution?
It's just adjustment that you need to the Constitution. If you go by the provisions of Section 9, subsection 2, to remove the office of the President, Section 130, and look at the other sections through which somebody can be elected into that position, also adjust them, the office becomes wiped out. In place of it, you can decide to say, okay, we now want a unicameral legislature. You remove the National Assembly and the, no, sorry.
You remove the Senate?
The Senate or the House of Reps, or you just rename, just have one legislature, give it any name you want. And now, you now say, okay, we'll now have the office of Governor General and the Prime Minister. Or let's have the office of Governor General only. Or let's have the office of Prime Minister. No President, no Governor General, nothing. Just Prime Minister. Or you can decide to say, okay, let's have a head of state. Section 130 of the Constitution gives the president 3 functions. 1, he is the head of state of the country. 2, he is the chief executive officer of Nigeria. 3, he is the commander-in-chief. Now, you may now say, let us amend most of those sections that deal on the president, and now say we now have the office of head of state. No longer president. So, but you can't, for you now, to change any part of Chapter 4 or any part of Section 8.
Which is dealing with the state creation.
State creation and fundamental
human rights.
That one is more peculiar.
We understand also that part of what is making it difficult to have states created under the civilian government is as a result of the, will I use the word, bureaucratic protocols. Apart from the National Assembly, the committee working on this now, we also hear the need to pass it through the various state houses of assembly in Nigeria, where maybe two-third majority support will be needed or something like that.
No. For state creation, you need two-third majority of the National Assembly.
National Assembly.
Then 4/5 of the states. Because that is the part that is rigid. You need 4/5 of the states, not two-third.
Isn't that obvious as to why it may not be a success story yet for this proposal? What happens if that level of support needed from the states' assemblies does not come?
The reason why it was
especially now that we're looking at additional state for the Southeast. So if we have the other states' assemblies not giving their nod, is it not going to the exercise? Wouldn't it become a frustrated?
Of
effort?
course, it will have. They would have succeeded in Scotland the exercise. But the point is that the reason why this provision was put like that is to ensure that before any such thing could be done, that the entire country has seen the need to do it. If any part of the country feels that the need to do it is not very important, then they will vote against it.
Vote against it.
And that will be the end of it. So for you actually to do any of such things, the entire country must say yes. That's where equity lies. It should be done.
So we are hopeful that it's going to be a yes coming from the states' assemblies whose position will be sought over this matter on the additional states to be created, especially for the Southeast. We also hear that proposals have been submitted. We have Anioma State coming from the Igbo-speaking part of the riverine areas. We hear of Etiti State. We also hear of Adada State. At the end of the day, I think what the majority of the stakeholders want, or the citizens want, is let's have an equal balance of the number of states that belong to each geographical zone.
You see, it's, I agree to start with that the people who are requesting for Anioma states are our Igbo brothers and sisters. They are Igbo people. But we are not talking of an additional state for the Igbo people. No. We are talking of additional state for the southeast region of Nigeria. After all, it's not only in Delta that you have Igbo people. You also have, far more than Delta, over 60% of the indigenes of rivers are Igbos. There are Igbos in Cross River State. I know that Bijakara, which is in Cross River, are Igbos. There are also few Igbos in Cross River. There are Igbos in Benue. There are some Igbos in Kogi. So we are not talking of all these places. We are talking of a geographical entity, not a political, not a geopolitical entity. Igbo land, no. It's only when you talk of Igbo land that you can talk of Anioma people. But we're talking of Southeast, which is a geographical area.
So for you,
from point A to point B to point C to point D, that enclave that comes within the boundary of these 4 points that I've mentioned,
yes,
that is the Southeast. And that is the only place that the state being sought for can come from. It can't come from outside the Southeast.
All right. All right. So
if the Anioma people are requesting for state, we will also support them because they are brothers. But for now, we are talking of the Southeast.
The Southeast. Well, signals are coming for us that our time is up. Honorable Barrister Nwabezugu, we must have to appreciate you for coming. We'll keep monitoring the turn of events as things begin to unfold. We just hope it's not going to end up being a mere academic exercise. We hope they're going to add action to the proposal, and let's see how far it goes. Thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
It's always a wonderful time having you on our platform. Well, he's a former member of the Enugu State House of Assembly. He's a constitutional lawyer based here in Enugu. He's been our guest today. And then until come your way again, I remain Chris Animuogo. This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.